Well, good morning, everyone. It is 10:30, so I want to be mindful of our time and get started. Welcome to this session on ELCA World Hunger. I'm glad that you're able to be with us this morning. My name is Pastor Jillian Riddle. I serve as the pastor at Epiphany Lutheran Church in Harrisburg. And just really glad that you chose to join this session today to learn a little bit more about ELCA World Hunger. Might be something you already know quite a bit about, or maybe you're looking for some new information on what's going on in World Hunger and hunger ministries across our synod as well. So I'm going to share my screen. So ELCA World Hunger. I serve on our Synod's Hunger Committee. I've been on our Hunger Committee for about 9 or 10 years at this point. It is something that is a passion of mine. Really started when I was a teenager, serving as a page at Synod Assembly. It was the first time I really heard about ELCA World Hunger. I learned about, at that time, they were starting the Stand with Africa campaign, something that you might be familiar with. It was something that was focusing on supporting food security, combating HIV/AIDS, as well as supporting peace and reconciliation. Again, it was a campaign that ELCA World Hunger did. It started around the year 2000. And from that moment on, I was pretty hooked. I've always been really passionate about this topic. So one of the driving forces for what we do in Hunger Ministries is our call. As baptized people of God, our baptismal promises say that we're supposed to follow the example of Jesus in serving all people, and also that we are to strive for justice and peace in all the earth. And so some of the ways that we do that are by living out our response to issues around hunger. And so one of the driving scriptures for ELCA World Hunger is when Jesus says in Matthew 25, "For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me." I also really love the story of there's so many feeding stories. And Jesus is feeding the multitudes. And it's getting late, and the disciples say, it's getting late and there's a lot of people here. We just don't have, enough for these people. There's just so many, and we just need to send them away. It's time for them to go home so that they can feed themselves. And Jesus, not only does he say no, he actually turns to the disciples and he says, "You give them something to eat. You give them something to eat." And so again, we are commissioned, we are called to respond to the needs around and within us. So this year, ELCA World Hunger is celebrating 50 years of ministry, of hunger ministries, which is a wonderful thing. So it's also an opportunity, if your congregations aren't familiar with ELCA World Hunger, this is a great opportunity to say, hey, we're celebrating 50 years. Let's start doing some focus on what all this looks like, what all of this means. I hardly need to give statistics, so I'm not going to do that. You can always go to feedingamerica.org if you're looking for hunger statistics. I think we know that there are hundreds of millions of people, both here at home and around the world, that are hungry. So again, you can go to Feeding America. I think just past week, the new statistics actually just dropped. So you can always go there to look. But we know that God richly provides in abundance. And yet many of our siblings still go hungry for various reasons. Some of those reasons are broken systems, war and violence. We know that is prevalent in our world, and as a result, migration is significant, that there are more and more people that are on the move across the globe. Inflation and cost of living, we're even feeling that here at home for sure. And so people are having to choose. Do I buy food? Do I pay my rent and my utilities? A lot of people have medical bills. Or do I fill the gas tank so I can actually get to work to pay for these things? And so people are having to make really difficult decisions. Also, of course, natural disasters, they happen. And so people find themselves in situations that were really unexpected. Of course, with the changing climates, we're seeing a lot more flooding or drought in different places. And that, of course, is affecting food production as well as housing and all those types of things. So ELCA World Hunger responds to these things, responds in many, many ways, provides immediate relief to those who are hungry, meeting basic needs, recognizing the universal human right to food, but also recognizing that ending hunger is more than just about food, that it's about connecting people with resources, that they need to produce food or to gain access to clean water and education and healthcare, and sources of income, so that long-term and sustainable change actually can be accomplished. And so ELCA World Hunger is involved not only in food production and distribution, but also in health clinics and microloans for small businesses and water wells and animal husbandry and community meals to advocacy. ELCA World Hunger strives really to create lasting impacts to those who are experiencing hunger and poverty here at home and around the world. ELCA World Hunger believes in an accompaniment model, a model where we partner with people, with churches, with organizations around the globe, and we really listen and learn about each unique community and context and their specific need, and then develop and support sustainable solutions to the root causes of hunger. So we're not going in somewhere and just saying, oh, this is what you need to do, but it's getting to know the people, getting to know the community, recognizing what is the need and what resources do you have, what gifts do you have, what are you already doing, and how can we support that? And so those are things that are really, really important and significant when it comes to ELCA World Hunger partnerships. So how do we do this? That is often the question, is how do we do this? So this is the main approach of ELCA World Hunger. There's these 4 key elements, the acronym READ: relief, education, advocacy, and development. So relief, exactly what it sounds like, sort of meeting those immediate relief needs, pantries, soup kitchens, community meals, relief after disasters, like access to clean water, things like that. So relief is one of those areas of focus. Next is education. Education is really threefold. First is that the ELCA provides education materials for congregations. And so these materials are available on the website, the ELCA World Hunger website, which I'll have all this information at the end. You can get these links. But there are free resources that a lot of people don't know about, and there's tons of them out there. And they're for all ages, but there's toolkits on interactive learning, activities, games, simulations, statistics. There's videos that tell stories of what's happening and how you can get involved. There's vacation Bible school curriculums. There are always seasonal resources for Advent and Lent that are developed each and every year by ELCA World Hunger. There are how-to guides if you're wondering about community gardens or meal packing events or backpack ministries. If you're wondering how to start those up or how to get involved in those, there are how-to guides. There's study guides, and there's even catechism materials, so we can be doing this work with our youth as well, educating. And again, all this stuff is free, and it's on ELCA World Hunger's website under their resources tabs. Next, ELCA World Hunger also, after relief and education, next in education, the second part of that would be providing education to communities and individuals on things such as sustainable farming practices, well sanitation. Dr. Lee talked about teaching folks how to boil water to sanitize those things. And so ELCA World Hunger comes alongside folks to learn, okay, we're going to provide a well, but we need to learn how to care for this. And so well sanitation, health practices, all to support individuals and communities. So that's the second part of the education. So first is the resources for congregations. Next is the providing education on sustainable practices. And then third part of education is raising money to send children to school. So there are parts in the world, across the world, where education systems, they're not free. You can't just send your kid to school. You need to pay fees to send your child to school. They need uniforms, they need supplies. In a lot of communities, it's a really difficult thing. Again, I talked about having to choose. Are you buying food? Are you paying for medical bills or rent and utility? Those are difficult things. And so providing and supporting education for children around the globe is something else that we do. Also, some families, children are needed to work to help raise money to support the family. And so if if a family is learning new sustainable methods and they have sustainable income, they might not need their child anymore to be working in the fields, and they're able to send them to school. And so those are all things that ELCA World Hunger really tries to focus on. So relief, education, and then next is advocacy. Advocacy it's nonpartisan, and it's a way that we focus on lifting up voices of those who are marginalized and ignored, right? Sometimes we say, people that don't have a voice. Well, the thing is everyone does have a voice. Oftentimes those voices go unheard or they're just ignored. And so advocacy is an important way that we can be lifting up people's voices to our policymakers to say, you should be caring about these things. You should be caring about people. You should be caring about our creation and how it affects people. And so speaking with a collective voice, doing effective advocacy, ELCA advocacy, witness in society really keeps us up to date on various issues. Some of you might be familiar with an organization called Bread for the World. It's an ecumenical organization that does advocacy. And one of the former directors was Pastor David Beckman. He actually was an ELCA pastor. And if you read in one of his books, he talks about the significance of things like food pantries, community meals, things like that. But there's a line that I will never forget. He said, yes, those things are important and they are needed, but we cannot food bank our way out of hunger. We need real systemic change. And so our policymakers are really important ways that we can be advocating for those changes to happen. So again, ELCA has an advocacy section, Witness in Society, that focus on issues around migration, peace, human rights, poverty, climate justice. And then here in Pennsylvania, we have a branch of advocacy, LAMPA, Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Pennsylvania. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But again, these are all resources that you can be using. They have emails that you can sign up for, that they do e-alerts for important and significant things that are coming up to be aware of. And then lastly, D, development. So development is long-term sustainable development is the goal, right? So accompaniment is something that I talked about, working with local partners to address root causes of hunger. Examples of development would be working on farming techniques, sanitation, education, microloans, various trainings, healthcare, clean water. The overall goal is to help people have sustainable sources of income. And so development is a real key part of what ELCA World Hunger does. So relief, education, advocacy, and development. That gives you kind of an overview of World Hunger, ELCA World Hunger's approach. So it seems like a lot, and so you might be wondering, where do we even begin with this? Where do we begin to get involved? When you think about hunger and poverty, those issues can seem so overwhelming, and yet for 50 years, ELCA World Hunger has been doing this ministry, and so we want you to find ways that you can partner and continue to make an impact and a difference. Every little thing really does matter and really does count. So some of the ways that you can get involved are, these are 2 catalogs that are available. You can find them again on the website, ELCA World Hunger website, or these get sent to every congregation. So if you're a pastor or a deacon, you often probably have seen these come into the office. If you are a lay parishioner, ask your pastors or deacons, hey, can we see these catalogs, because they should be coming to your churches. Or again, you can access them online or order them for free online. So ELCA Good Gifts is a way, if you're looking for a way to get involved monetarily, if you're looking to do a fundraiser event and say, we want to support by giving funds to ELCA World Hunger, ELCA Good Gifts is a great resource, because it talks about God's Global Barnyard, which is like pigs, ducks, chicks, cows, all the different ways that you can help, purchase an animal or something like that. You can also give to water, which focuses on wells, filtration, irrigation, and even latrines. Again, we talked about sanitation and things like that are really important. So bathrooms and things like that. Women and children, so microloans for small businesses, sending someone to a farmer field school, school fees, uniforms, and supplies, something else that we had talked about. Computers and internet connection are also something that we often take for granted. Agriculture, community gardens, seeds for both gardens as well as fruit trees, tools. Not everybody has tools for gardening and farming, and so you can purchase those through Good Gifts as well. Healthcare, hygiene kits, mosquito nets. You can stock a health clinic or have vaccinations for children, food for orphans and vulnerable children. Those are other things that you can support through Good Gifts. International emergencies, refugee families, you can support refugee families, you can buy warm blankets. And one of the newer things that ELCA World Hunger is also supporting is counseling and care for people that have experienced trauma during these emergencies. And so you can support that as well through Good Gifts. Under Help at Home, backpack ministries, soup kitchens, housing for vulnerable youth, personal household necessities as well for disaster survivors. And then, of course, you can always give where is needed most. So, and again, when you're doing these campaigns to raise funds, it's always a good idea to offer education around these things. So say you decide we want to support building a well. It would be a great idea to also offer some education on why is that important? Why is that needed? What goes into caring for a well? And why is that important for a community? And so, again, those resources can be found on ELCA World Hunger's website around education, hunger and water and things like that. So it's always good. I find that whenever people know more about a topic, they're more willing to give and get involved. Next, you'll see there on the bottom, the action guide for congregations. So action guide for congregations gives action, education, participation ideas for things you can be doing in your congregation. They have the latest resources. They have a lot of seasonal ideas that come out, again, for like Advent, Lent. They have saved the dates for upcoming events, the Good Gifts that we just talked about, ideas for congregations like group studies, curriculum guides, even posters and displays that you can order for free through ELCA World Hunger. Resources like the how-tos I mentioned on community gardens and feeding ministries. Ideas for worship. So if you are a worship leader, they have liturgies and sermon starters and prayers. Also special dates to consider like World Water Day or World Food Day or World Refugee Day, things that you can be doing during worship. ELCA World Hunger videos are available. I don't know if you're familiar with Vimeo, or also ELCA World Hunger has a YouTube channel, and so they have videos from home and abroad about things that are happening. Also ideas for children and youth. Again, God's Global Barnyard is always a fun one to get involved with. They have like coloring pages for kids and different ways that you can do some education. And there are about 5 or 6 vacation Bible school curriculums that ELCA World Hunger developed in the last several years that are free. So instead of purchasing all those big kits, you can be using ELCA World Hunger Vacation Bible School resources. And so those are all available in there. All right, so I know we got a lot of information we're trying to get through. So ELCA Domestic Hunger Grants. So I want to talk about, there are a few granting opportunities. And so I'm going to start first with ELCA Domestic Hunger Grants. And we'll talk about these a little bit. Not everyone will apply for an ELCA Domestic Hunger Grant, but I want you to know what they are and how you can access the information. Again, information for all of these things, like the grants and any of the information that you need to apply for a grant, can be found on ELCA World Hunger's website. So ELCA World Hunger Domestic Hunger Grants. What are they? How do I apply? What's the review process? Things like that. So they are grants that accompany congregations and their partners throughout the U.S. and the Caribbean, and they draw on strengths of communities to address local issues such as food security, clean water, housing, job access, human rights, policy change, and more. So again, all of these things that address root causes of hunger. The priorities of these things are accompaniment, justice, liberation, right? So it's not just an exchange of money or goods when you get these grants. They want to see accompaniment. They want to see ministries that are transformative, holistic, and integrated, addressing these root causes and really creating relationships and partnerships in the communities. At a minimum, you need to, ELCA World Hunger Domestic Grant applicants must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So if your ministry is a part of your church, that's already a thing because you're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. They want to know that you're demonstrating strong, recognized, and established relationships with congregation or a ministry or an institution of the ELCA, as well as relationships with the community in which the work will take place, right? So they want to see you addressing root causes of hunger in your communities, demonstrating strong commitments to diversity and inclusion in the leadership and the decision-making of whatever this ministry is, including direct engagement of people who themselves are experiencing hunger and poverty, right? So wanting to lift up people who are experiencing hunger and poverty themselves and really involve them and create relationship with them when it comes to how this ministry is lived out in your community. And of course, again, leveraging local assets through partnerships with local ministries and organizations. And so again, it's about those relationships, about those partnerships. How are you addressing root causes of hunger? There is a webinar that you can watch that goes over all of this information on the Domestic Hunger Grant website. And they explain all of this whole process and how you can apply. The Domestic Hunger Grant applications, the application itself is not new. They've kept that the same, but the thing that is new this year is the letter of inquiry. So before you even do all the grant writing work, they want a letter of inquiry that talks about your proposal because they get so many applications that they want to see the proposals ahead of time, and then they'll invite folks to apply for the grants. So again, information about the letter of inquiry is also available. If you ever have questions about these things also, you can always reach out to the Synod and they'll get in touch with us, the Hunger team, because we also are involved in reviewing these grants. So one of the things that happens is that when you apply for a domestic hunger grant, they don't just look at your application. They want to see, they want some feedback from those of us who are in your synod. And so someone from the Hunger Committee will reach out and they'll conduct an interview. They might even come out to your site and see what your ministry is all about. But we have a rubric that they give us to kind of fill out what sort of a scoring, if you will, way of giving feedback on this rubric, as well as questions that they ask about what your ministry is all about. Most importantly, also know your budget. I tell people all the time, don't just know that number that you're wanting, but know the breakdown, know your budget, know everything about your finances of your ministry. ELCA World Hunger Grants, I will tell you, they have tons and tons of applications every year. And only about 10% of the requests are actually granted. But that, please do not let that deter you from applying if you are interested. We have had a few domestic hunger grant recipients in our synod. And so please do not let it deter you from applying for an ELCA domestic hunger grant if you are interested in doing that. Again, that's just a basic overview. There is a lot of information on the domestic hunger grants, but I just wanted you to know about that. You can apply for them, again, on the website. I'll have that information at the end. But it is a process. That process has started already for this year. This granting cycle, the letter of inquiries are open right now. They opened May 1st, and they will be open until June 16th. So June 16th is when the letter of inquiries are due for the ELCA domestic hunger grants. An additional opportunity, lesser known opportunity, are the daily bread grants. So daily bread grants are also through ELCA World Hunger. They are accepted on a rolling basis. And so they're often providing for our neighbors experiencing hunger, while also serving for a catalyst for garnering additional financial support. So those are meant to supplement existing food ministries. So if you have an existing food ministry, but you could use some funds for, maybe you run a food pantry and you're running low and donations aren't coming in, but you could use some funds on a rolling basis, you can apply for a daily bread grant. Again, on the World Hunger website is that information. All of these applications are also available in both English and Spanish, so encourage folks to apply. All right, next. Now, some folks get these confused with the domestic hunger grants and the legacy fund grants. So the Lower Susquehanna Synod Legacy Fund Hunger Grants. They are different than the ELCA Domestic Hunger Grants. ELCA Domestic Hunger Grants are across all of the synods of the ELCA. Lower Susquehanna Synod, we are in a unique position. We are one of the only synods to offer our own grants for hunger ministries happening throughout the territory of our synod. Legacy funds allow us to support hunger ministries happening here in the Lower Susquehanna Synod. And so some information on that. Projects can be congregationally or community-based and may involve collaboration among many groups. But we do ask that all projects have a link to a congregation of the Lower Susquehanna Synod. The link can be provisional funding, it can be supplies, it can be volunteers to a community or ELCA organization. So projects can also be new, or they can be existing projects. We get applications from ministries year after year. So there are some ministries that have been applying for Lower Susquehanna Synod Legacy Fund grants for many, many years. We get them every year because they're ongoing ministries. And so we're happy to see those applications come in year after year. Some we get one time, and that's great too. And then again, some are new, some are existing projects. Again, we want to see collaboration. We want to see hands-on participation by folks in the congregation to which the ministry is connected. And we want to see partnerships beyond the congregation and the organization. And again, please know your budget. Please know your budget. Funds are limited. They vary from year to year depending on the market. So we are told how the market did, and so how much money we're getting out of the fund to distribute each year. It's usually a pretty decent number. So, but we try to either fully or at least partially fund most applications. Grant applications are available now on our synod's website. So on our synod's website, which again, I'll have at the end, there is information on how you can apply for our Synod's Legacy Fund grants. Applications for our funds through the Synod are due by Monday, August 26th. And then again, we will take time as a committee to review those. And then the granting will be this fall. But those are due by Monday, August 26th. And again, please reach out to the Synod. They can connect you to us if you ever have any questions. We're looking for projects that are community needs and assessment planning, that they are designed to address root causes of hunger and poverty in a community. They can be focused on hunger education, educating a congregation or community members about hunger. Oftentimes they're hunger relief related. So projects that, such as soup kitchens, community gardens, feeding programs, summer and weekend feeding programs, food pantries, things like that. Hunger advocacy. So if you have a project that's raising awareness of hunger as a public policy issue and you need funds for that, you can apply. But again, things that address the root causes. If you have more than one project going on and you want to apply for both of those projects, you can do that, but we need 2 separate applications or 3 separate applications, depending on how many projects you have going on. We're not in a position to grant funds to fund salaries or paid professional positions. We just cannot do that. Also, if you are needing funds for renovations or remodeling of service spaces, like if you run a pantry and you need a new refrigerator, or you have a community meal and you're looking for a stove or things like that, we can do that, but we limit that to 2 granting cycles so that we're not seeing that over and over again. And again, so next is, what is the grant review process? We get those grants in, and again, we have a rubric that we follow when it comes to grant distribution. And then once those grants are sent out, we request and require there to be a follow-up evaluation within 6 months. And someone from the committee will be in touch. Basically, we just want to see, how have you used the funds and how's it going? How's your ministry going? Are there ways that we can be supporting you beyond, just funding as well? So, all right, let's keep moving here. All right, so hunger highlights, what's happening? So I have the joy and privilege of serving on our Synod's hunger team, and so I get to see through the applications that come in from the grants to different things, that I get to know what's happening in our Synod. But we've realized that a lot of our ministries in our Synod aren't familiar with one another. They don't know necessarily what's happening, beyond their own ministry. And so this is just a way that we can begin to share some of that. So the Riddle Farm, you might be familiar with that. The website's there from the Lutheran Camping Corporation. It is a ministry of our Synod. It is a crop farm, and all that is harvested on this farm, I'd say they're growing on about 9 acres now. This is the 9th growing season at the Riddle Farm. Everything that is harvested is donated. And so it is a very unique ministry. There are not many like this, even throughout the ELCA, that actually source food. And Riddle Farm, you are welcome to volunteer there as much or as little as you want throughout the growing season. The growing season has already started. If you go to that website, you'll see there's a sign up. It's called Sign Up Genius, and they have all the dates that you can come out and volunteer. All ages are welcome. I took my 5-year-old goddaughter the other week, and she was just so excited because she loves dirt. So we were planting lettuces and snap peas and potatoes and all sorts of stuff because we're in the planting season right now. So it's a great one, an intergenerational ministry to get folks involved. Even just go out and check it out, see what it's all about. They are one of the ELCA Domestic Hunger Grant recipients in our Synod, which is really exciting. Last year alone, Riddle Farm harvested over 27,000 pounds of food that then was distributed throughout the local region. So again, Riddle Farm is great. Check them out. Backpack ministries. There are several of these happening throughout our synod. Please, if you're interested in knowing if one is even happening, call your local school. It's a great way to find out. You can find out how you can get involved, or if you want to start one. Again, there are how-to guides on the ELCA World Hunger resource page, or get in touch with us at the synod office. We can connect you to other backpack ministries that are happening, and we can that way you can network and find out how are you doing what you're doing and how can we be doing this as well. Backpack ministries often cover weekends or holidays or even summer breaks. Food pantries. These come in various sizes, all the way down to a little free pantry that could sit outside your church where there's some non-perishable items, to a full-blown pantry where you have thousands of people coming every month to receive food. Oftentimes, especially the larger ones, can also get support through the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. I've also noticed that if you can't host a food pantry at your location, there are many ways that you can be involved in supporting food pantries. So my congregation, we sit along a really busy road, but people don't have access here. We don't have a bus stop. We don't have sidewalks to get here. It's actually dangerous to kind of walk or ride a bike here. So we wouldn't be a good place to host a food pantry. But we have a shopping cart that sits out 24/7 right at the entrance of our sanctuary. And we do monthly kind of rotations on what we say, just to give people ideas, but people can put any food in there at any time. And then we make sure that that goes to the local food pantry where people actually have access. Also, it's really great, an opportunity if you're collecting things to think about items that SNAP benefits, what was known as food stamps, but supplemental nutrition. That SNAP benefits don't cover everything, like hygiene products and things like that. So you can be collecting those to hand out at food pantries. Also, cultural items or people with health concerns, people that have celiac and are gluten-free, it can be hard to find those things in food pantries. So just keep that in mind. Community gardens, again, community gardens come in all sizes. You can be a community garden where it's just your congregation tends it, or you can be open to the community. You can have plots where people can come and garden if you have the land. Look around, see what you have. What are your resources, and how can you be using those things to care for the community? We found when I was at a congregation in North Carolina, we had a community garden, and sometimes there was such an abundance, and we found that shut-ins loved receiving fresh produce because a lot of them are on fixed incomes. Could not have physically tend gardens anymore. And so community gardens are a great way to support our shut-ins, soup kitchens, food pantries, things like that. Again, how-to guides can be found on ELCA World Hunger resource page. Community meals. Community meals can be breakfast, lunch, dinner. They can be weekly, they can be monthly. You could be a host site, or maybe there's a congregation in your area that has better access and you all volunteer and you rotate each week so that it's not just one group that's doing the meal every time. They can be eat-in meals, they can be takeout, lots of different things that you can do with community meals. And again, always think outside the box, right? So there are so many different ministries that, you can be creative, try new things. I've seen, we had a grant request a few years ago about wanting to have an opportunity to teach cooking skills, because some folks they don't have those skills. And so teaching cooking skills is a great way to support hunger ministries. Milk programs, again, education and advocacy, so many different things. Also a new initiative for better connecting and telling the story of how the Holy Spirit is moving among our synod. If you want to spend a little more time with me this coming Wednesday, May 22nd at 7 p.m., you can register through our synod's website. We're going to have a Zoom meeting. We are looking to do a new initiative on how to better tell the story, how to better make connections about what is happening already in and amongst our synod. We want to have better communication. Again, not everybody knows what's happening, and this could be a great opportunity. We're also looking for people interested in maybe going out to the sites of ministries that are happening to collect the stories, record them, write up stories, the ways that we can be sharing these ministries across our synod as well. So yeah, so those are some of the hunger highlights. I mentioned LAMPA, Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Pennsylvania. That is also a ministry that is celebrating an anniversary this year, 45 years for LAMPA, doing advocacy ministry here. Again, it's nonpartisan, it's a collective voice. They offer training and guides on how to do advocacy, and you can sign up on their website for emails on current issues and different ways that you can be involved. They also do an annual Lutheran Day in the Capitol, which just happened. We just did that last week. We had, not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before we were there, there were workshops, we had worship opportunities, and we meet with our representatives to actually advocate for things that are pressing issues right now. Again, LAMPA covers hunger and poverty, housing, creation care. And when they say in God's image, they're talking about human rights, right? Advocating for human rights for people. Also, just want to give a shout out to growing justice outreach in Lower Susquehanna Synod. I remember how I said partnerships matter. So World Hunger is under the umbrella of justice outreach. Other initiatives are Amparo and Immigration, that is accompanying migrant minors with protection and advocacy and things like that. Housing Equity Task Force, Toward Racial Justice, Disability Ministries, Affirming LGBTQIA, as well as doing creation care. So there's so much overlay in a lot of these justice ministries. For example, there is definitely a connection between the root causes of hunger and people experiencing homelessness, right? So all of these things are connected. If you are interested in getting involved in any of these justice ministries, if something sparks your attention, you know, housing or disability ministries or anything like that, get in touch with the Synod, and we will be happy to get you in touch with these teams and what they're up to in the Synod. All right, how can I get involved? Listen, that is huge. Get out into your community and really listen. Talk to social workers, talk to nurses, talk to teachers at your local school district. Their finger is on the pulse. They are interacting with children and families every single day, and they see and hear and know the needs, right? Your neighbors, your local businesses, your organizations. The great thing, just get out and listen. Don't make assumptions about what is needed. Let me say that again. Don't make assumptions about what is needed. Also, you don't want to be duplicating services, right? So get out, listen, see what's out there, see what's needed, find ways to partner, get involved of what's already going on. I said join. I talked about the justice outreach. So join our hunger team. We're always looking for passionate advocates to join our hunger team. But also any of those opportunities out there would be great. Be open to opportunities, be creative, try something. If it doesn't work, it's okay. I say this over and over and over again. It's not about success. It's about faithfulness. Faithfulness to the call, faithfulness to responding to the needs. It's about planting seeds, right? It's not about being successful. So if it doesn't work, it's okay. Be flexible. For my people out there that really like Friends, the show Friends, pivot, right? So try something new. And network, right? You do not need to reinvent the wheel. This is why we want to connect things that are already happening across our ministry, our hunger ministries. You don't need to figure this out on your own. When you want to try something new, let us know and we can connect you. So hopefully none of us functions as a silo. Hopefully you are not just an island out there floating, but that you are connecting with other local congregations or other organizations in the community. So, all right. And so here are some of those websites I was talking about. If you want to take a little snapshot of those, the resources for ELCA World Hunger, the Domestic Hunger Grants, where you can apply and get information on those. Again, for our synod, our hunger initiatives and our legacy fund grant applications are found on that third website. And then again, LAMPA, the Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Pennsylvania. That's their website, and there's ways you can. So I want you to have that. Whew, getting close on time here, but I'm really trying to get through it. Hopefully you took a picture of that. And then finally, thank you. So there's the ELCA World Hunger website, as well as my email address. So if you have any questions at any time, or want to get involved, or want to be connected to a particular ministry that's happening, or find out something more, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am happy to be a resource. And that's what we as the Hunger team really want to do, is to be a resource for all of you as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. We have like 4 minutes. Are there questions? I feel like we might all have just been drinking from a fire hydrant. There was a lot of information. But do you have any questions for me right now? Or again, you can always email me as well. Okay. Well, then we, I believe, can probably head to break. I appreciate, again, you coming and participating in this. It's always kind of weird. Obviously, we always ask you to keep your mics off, and then your pictures as well. So I feel like I'm not sure who I'm talking to. But I really appreciate you listening and learning about ELCA World Hunger. Hopefully you learned something new, or it gave you a little bit of information on how you can get involved in your context. So again, if you have any questions, please get in touch with me or the Synod. Reach out to the Synod. We have great partners, again, to try to connect with any of those sorts of resources. So, all right, well, thank you all. If you don't have any questions for me right now, enjoy your break. I believe we have about 12 minutes until the next session starts at 11:30. So thank you all. Thank you.
Oh, I just when I saw that you couldn't see any faces, I just wanted to put a face to the thing. We're listening, and we work at the local food bank.
Wonderful.
And there's also the soup kitchen that we go to twice a month.
Awesome.
And so we're really passionate about this information, and we have actually applied to one of your grants. So
awesome. Very cool. Yeah, we're really excited for the next granting cycle, and really look forward to doing that. And we're also looking to celebrate our grant applicants coming up in the next year. We're wanting to do a way to bring everyone together that has received grants, because oftentimes they don't, again, you don't know each other. And so we're actually looking, Whittle Farm has a new beautiful big pavilion, and so we're looking to do an event there that would bring everyone together. So really, that's great. And Shelly, I know you do some youth ministry stuff too. I recognize, I've seen you over the years, so that's great. Yeah. All right, well, thank you all, and enjoy your break, and enjoy your next session.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
Jillian?
Yes.
This is Marilyn.
Yes.
I would like to know, maybe this is not in your realm of expertise, but we feed these people like once a month, or once every month, and then another group does it every other month at Christian Ministry. So I would like to know, we give all this stuff out. We have a pantry out front that's filled every day, but we never see any of these people in church. How do we get those people into the church? Because they also need church. I mean, they need food first, and then church.
Right. Absolutely, I understand that, and I think, I mean, yeah, there's no easy answer with that, as far as you don't want to be saying, well, you can only have food if you come here, right? Because we know that we know unfortunately that happens, right? And so it's really about, I talked about the relationships. That's where it starts. If you can get out and get to know people, it's about building trust. I know that families that I've worked with in the past, oftentimes they struggle with you know, they've been in this cycle for so long, and they've been hurt for so long. And sometimes even receiving services, sometimes they have some shame about that, which is just heartbreaking. But if you can really get out and just show them that you care about them as a person and build relationships with them, you're more likely to have an opportunity to invite. So I would say that that's a really good place to start. I don't know if that is helpful, but yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Of
Appreciate
course.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Miss you.
Oh, I know. I miss being out in Spancrest. So, but yeah, I miss you too. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Yep. Take
Bye-bye.
care.